So hello and welcome to the channel. Welcome to another Assetto Corsa Competizione video. Hopefully you enjoyed the intro to the video. Certainly enjoyed putting it together. But we're here at Monza, the circuit of speed or something like that. But anyway, we're here in the Aston Martin. It's great to be back in another different car around this fantastic circuit. I know it's probably one of the most hated or loved circuits, especially in the online lobbies. This circuit always brings lots of interest, and I don't know why. Maybe a lot of people say because it's technically not demanding, and I can understand that. It all comes down to car setup, but it also comes down to really maximising your corner entry and exit speeds. If anything you can learn from Monza, it's all about trying to carry as much speed as possible through the corners and onto the long straights, and it'll serve you in good stead for a lot of other circuits. So for all the people that whinge and moan about Monza not being technically demanding, there are a lot of aspects of Monza that need to be absolutely perfect in order to be hitting 146s, and a lot of the guys on the big leagues, AOR and all that lot, hitting 145s. I can't personally say I've ever seen a 145, especially on Xbox anyway. But yeah, getting into the 146s isn't something that is expected on every single lap, unless you've nailed the lap and you've absolutely nailed it. Alright, there might be a few little areas where you've not been perfect, but you really do need to nail this lap in order to get a 146. And we'll just come on board with this 146 lap, the lap that I'm just setting now. Let's just rewind it, and we'll just pause it and come on board. If we change the camera view, we'll go with this one so you can see the inputs that I'm making. Bring up the HUD as well, but I'll put the main lap that I did to reach this so you can see all the inputs, all the tyre delta and everything up on screen. So I've just done two 147 zeros, and this is coming into the 146 lap, and there really are minor changes. Obviously you can see a 146.7, and we'll just move it along. I'll just pause it every now and then. So as we come into the braking zone, we're aiming for that 150 yard board, and it's literally bang on it. It's almost like there is such a minor delay at braking at this 150 yard board. It's like millimeters just past it in order to get the braking distance, and we're hard on the brake, coming down through the gears, not too quickly so that it locks the tyres up, because if you come down too quickly in the gears you actually end up extending your braking zone. So coming down nice and steady but quickly through the gears. So getting turned in really nice and early, and we're aiming to clip this, almost clipping the red sausage curb on this exit really quickly with the hands across, and just kind of clipping that inside just to get the car to rotate. Then we drop to TC1 on the exit and accelerate away. Other than that, we're in TC5, really sticking on this inside curb here, making the corner as short as possible. Get the car across to the right hand side. We're looking for this this marker just on the right hand side here, the end of this Arco barrier in orange, and we're going to be heavy on the brake again, coming down through the gears nice and controlled down to second gear, and we want to be coming off the brake pedal as we roll into the first apex so that we can literally be on the power as soon as we've passed this first apex. So we want to be accelerating now, getting the car as straight as we can, then down to TC1, back to TC5, and for me that's just how I do it. I'm changing quickly between them using Y and X on my wheel, which I've assigned through the controls. We'll have a little look at that later. And I'm just looking almost like it's a feeling for this corner as to when I'm almost maxing out in 4th gear, I'm going to drop into 3rd gear. You could say it's the hardcore barrier again, but I'm not sure it is. So just tentative on the accelerator, then down to TC1 on the exit. And another one, you can brake at this 50 yard board. If someone obliterates it, just look across to the other side of the track and there's a white marker on the hardcore barrier. That's generally what I aim for, but it's much harder to see that out of the right hand side of my eye than opposed to seeing it with the 50 yard board. But I'm going to just touch the brake there, carrying as much speed as possible. This is such an important corner to carry speed out onto this back straight. So just a little stab of brake pedal. Really don't want to clip any of that inside corner and use all the curb on the exit. So just making the line as short as possible here. And this has got to be the most important sector on the circuit. One that the Aston Martin really does struggle with, along with a couple of other cars that don't particularly enjoy taking the curbs. So looking at the Marshall on the right hand side, the end of the hardcore barrier, they're looking at the orange, and that's where we're going to be wanting to brake in a nice straight line down to 3rd gear, and then we're just going to turn the car in across some of the curb, but not too much that we get a track infringement, because if you cut the curb too harshly, you will get a track infringement. And we want to be off the brake when we hit these curbs. We want to have done all our braking and be able to release the car so that the front of the car is squatting down as we come into the braking zone, and as we hit these curbs we kind of lift off, and it allows the front of the car to lift, and we just glide over these curbs. So all the braking done, and then lift off on the power. And this for me is probably one of the trickiest bits to get right every single lap after lap. Because the Aston Martin really does hate the curbs altogether, but we want to try and get the car to rotate as much as we can through this second section of Ascari. As we come in here, we're going to take as much of this curb as we can, but not going over these sleeping policemen. And I'm going to drop to TC1 here. You could try just keeping TC1 all the way through this corner, but I always find that the application of the throttle, for me anyway, I would prefer to go full throttle in TC5 and then choose, if I feel like I've got the grip, I'll drop to TC1. It is a subtle way of doing it, and it's just how I've learnt to do it. But you might find it's just easier to be in TC1. It can sometimes light up the rear tyres if you haven't got the grip. That's the problem here, really. So as I drop to TC1 here, I'm wanting the car to accelerate more. I'm wanting to get rotation from the rear of the car. That's why I've dropped to TC1. In TC5, it's cutting the traction control, so it stops the rotation of the car as much, and you end up with a little bit of understeer if you don't have it lower down on the TC range, really. So flat and committed through there then. It's a real flick of the wheel to get it through the second part of Ascari. So coming under the bridge here, I always like to see 27, 128 on the dash. Braking just after the 100 yard board, try and keep it straight, try and carry as much rotation as you can. And we're always looking for this Marshall just on the right hand side here. If you can get to power earlier than that, and you've taken the car a tiny bit wider so that you've got more rotation, the car's more rotated, you can get on the power earlier. And the earlier you are on the power, the more speed we're going to carry out onto this straight. It's such a crucial corner again, Parabolica, to get on the power nice and early, so you've got all your braking done, get the car turned in, get it rotated, and try and be on the power before you see this Marshall. If you see this Marshall and you're just getting on the power, it's probably the last time you want to be on the power, the last point in the corner where you really want to be on the power. If you can get on the power before that, you're going to get a better exit. But if you haven't got the car rotated enough, you're going to end up running wide, probably hit the sleeping policeman out of this corner. And then across the line for a 146.7. So we'll try and see the lap in its entirety. And I'll not pause it so you can see just how the car rolls through the corners. So braking at the 150 hardboard, get the car slowed down all the way to the left, cutting across this curb on the inside, cutting across the curb on the left hand side, get the car nice and straight, TC1, accelerate away. I always go out to the left hand side, some drivers tend to stay on the inside. I just feel it has a least resistance through this corner, nice and tight through the apex. Get the car across to the right hand side, braking at the orange hardcore barrier, all the braking done, off the brake, on the power, get the car nice and straight, TC1, TC5, touch a brake, get the car turned in. Once you can feel you can accelerate, TC1, back to TC5, braking, get the car turned in, back on the power, TC1, and just enjoy the acceleration. So ready for the toughest section of the circuit, braking at the board on the right hand side, a little bit of curb, get the car turned in, feel the grip, TC1, nice and clean on the exit. Braking just after the 100 yard board, get the car turned in, on the power, TC1, and then across the line. I'm just going to rewind back a little bit because there's just one key point I want to point out here. As you come into here, at this point here, in a lot of cars, the BMW, the Mustang, the McLaren, you would be aiming to run over this sleeping policeman just right at the apex of the second part of Ascari, and all those cars take this corner perfectly. Don't try this in the Aston Martin. You'll just end up reaching for the sky. The front of the car just doesn't like it at all. It just bottoms out. I've tried setting the car up differently to take this curb, and it just has too much of a detrimental effect throughout the entire lap. Some cars love this corner, some cars hate it, and for some reason the Aston Martin just hates this corner. So don't try. I'd love to aim for this inside curb, and it is the fastest line, don't get me wrong, but not in this car. Unless the car's set up differently, you might have it set up perfectly for another way of taking this corner. But for me, with the way I've got the car set up, it does not like this corner, so I do not try and cut it. Don't get me wrong, I'd try it in other cars, but I've tried it in this car and it just doesn't favour it at all. But yes, it is the fastest way to go through this corner, but not in this car. So let's just exit out of there and let's come in and have a quick look at the setup. So return to garage, just look at the timetable as well. Two really important things. Sector 1, you need to be in the 34s to be setting a good lap. Sector 2, I'd say 37s, and Sector 3, 34s. As you can see, the biggest issue when you are in the 147s is usually Ascari and getting under 34 seconds through Sector 3. If that's your problem, look at the lap time and know that that is the sector that's causing you problems. If you're seeing 35 in Sector 3, that's where your issues are. Again, with the other two sectors, 34 in Sector 1 and 37 in Sector 2. But the biggest issue for most people is Ascari and taking it flat out or carrying as much speed as you can through Parabolica. So let's have a look at the setup. Toe is, I think it's just going to be preference really as to which toe you run. I can't see it making a massive difference if you chose to run -1, but for some reason I've landed on -2. Caster, again, this depends on how much weight you like to feel in the wheel. Usually I would max this out, but it does max out quite high. 16 is quite high and the wheel will feel very heavy at that kind of caster. The rear of the car does have a tendency, once you've started to run maybe 20 minutes into a race, it does want to step out. So I just tried to add a little bit of stability through the rear by almost stopping the rotation at the rear of the car by giving a negative toe. This wouldn't be in reality how you would set up the rear of the car. You would generally always have a positive figure here. Obviously we're going to max out the cambers. And for tyre pressures, I have got them heat wise, they're going to be around 26, or PSI wise, they're going to be around 26.8. And the front of the car is a little bit stiffer, probably going to be around 27. Traction control, again, I'll switch between 1 and 5. And ABS, I'm quite happy running on 3 or 2. Engine map 1, no TC2. Obviously we ran 18 litres in this session to be hitting a 146. But I have had 146s as early on in a 40 litre race as lap 2, so I was quite amazed with that. But the temperature was a little bit cooler, I think, in an online race. Again, I used to run this something like this, and then I had the rear much softer, but I decided to just stiffen the car completely, really, which seemed to handle a bit better through a Ascari. Brake balance, you could have this on 57 to get a little bit more rear bias, and the steering ratio just feels a bit too twitchy on 14 and too sluggish on 16, so 15 was the way to go. And usually I wouldn't have these bump stops. Usually they'd probably be set something more like this, or somewhere down here like this, but I ran a number of sessions with them maxed out, and the car just felt so much better. The lap time was better, so obviously it just stuck. And for the preload, just to offer a little bit less rotation on acceleration, we've got it down much lower than normal, and it offers a little bit more turning response, especially through the first corner and maybe the second chicane, very alti or something like that. I can't remember the second chicane. Someone always corrects me on the second chicane. Again, I would usually run these as a meta setup, everything just maxed out, but the car just seemed to perform with a little bit less aggression. I guess this slightly softer setup at the front of the car, and then a little bit more stability, just stiffening the front of the car so that it tends to want to squat less when you come into the braking zone. We've just stiffened the bump and rebound, kind of just stiffening the bump. And then I went from 60 to 61 just to give a little bit more rake on the car. And I used to run this with 0 rear wing, but from 0 rear wing to 2 really didn't have much of an effect on the acceleration of the car when it was absolutely flat out. Obviously you do tend to lose out a little bit towards the Mustangs and the McLarens. You will catch them and overtake them when they're running 0 rear wing, but you are susceptible when it comes to them wanting to re-overtake you when it comes to the long straights. But it just adds more stability to the car. Once you've done a 20-minute session, you're really going to want to have this 2 clicks of rear wing. If you were doing a 30-minute session, you'd feel so much more benefit. The longevity of the tyres would be much better. I would suggest running the 2 clicks of rear wing. And the brake balance, I've just run this 2 at the front to try and generate some heat in the tyres. A lot of the online lobbies seem to be running maybe 18, 16 degrees, and the front tyres just get a little bit too cold. Obviously we've got long spells of acceleration just to try and cool the brakes, and I think it works quite well, to be honest. So just looking at how I choose to use the controls. In the wheel setup, you can see if I just use my keyboard here on the right hand side, I'll just push down. You can see the other keys that I assign. Obviously flappy paddles, I've got them up and down. My pit limiter is the B button on the wheel. I've got one other button assigned to flick through the lights just to flash the blue drivers or anyone coming out of the pit. Cycle through the cameras, I just flick up and look left and right is on my little stick on my wheel. And then I've got these selected. You can choose to select these. If I want to select this one, press the A button, press the X button, it's that easy, and put it back. Same with the Y button, and they're just easy for me to reach. The McLaren GT3 rim is absolutely brilliant at this, because your thumb position is so close to the buttons. It doesn't feel like a stretch. In my other wheel, my Club Sport wheelbase, I really feel like I have to lift my hand to push these buttons, and it is very awkward to do. So if like me, you've got the McLaren rim, you really have got one of the best wheels on the market, I think. Price point and everything else. Nothing else I've got assigned. Don't use TC2. Don't use anything else. And that's the way I've got things set up. Assists, I'll just flick through them. All my settings, just in case you feel something might be different on yours. That's how I've got my audio. My HUD set up. Sure, it actually goes down to another. No, that's it. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you find it useful. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do subscribe to the channel, like, share the video, send a bit of love. Thanks for watching. Till next time, ciao for now.